Hello and welcome to the Trent Valley Railway. For this video, which will be looking at the Fiddle Yard. This video is part of a series of videos that details the build of the Trent Valley Railway. The Fiddle Yard was built over the summer of 2019. With the main Fiddle Yard, this contains 6 sidings and 12 loops, with an additional 2 loops on the other side of the garage. The Fiddle Yard provides for a minimum of 20 trains to be stored and ready to run on one of the running lines around the layout. We will now take a look back, first of all with an explanation of the different tracks running through the Fiddle Yard, and then looking at the main Fiddle Yard build itself. And if we just look at what these lines are from right to left, on the right hand side, this is a concrete sleeper track, which is one of the main running lines. So this will be a through running line, which won't have any of my rolling stock sat on that line. In the Fiddle Yard area, this will be a through route, so I can have a full sort of running track all the way around the layout, even through the Fiddle Yard. This track will come in the direction towards the camera at the very bottom here, towards the baseboard, and this other track here, which is the other concrete sleeper track, this one will progress the opposite direction, so I've got a running line in both directions around the layout. What we then have is the wooden sleepers, so this track here and this one, where all wooden sleeper track is actually Fiddle Yard lines. So this is where all the rolling stock will be stored for the Trent Valley Railway once we get to the main Fiddle Yard section. The tracks on the far left is what we've just been discussing, which then comes around into the main Fiddle Yard area here, where the running lines then branch out into each of the Fiddle Yard loops. So at the very front here is where those 4 Fiddle Yard loops are. Then behind that you've then got 3 branching out, another 3 after that, and at the very back then is where I'm currently working on, which is the final sort of 3 loops which go right the way round the back towards the very back wall. I'm currently using the Pico track spacing tool. I have 2 of these, and I'm making sure that the spacing between the Fiddle Yard lines is as per the streamlined spacing, and I've also, as you can see towards the back there, using some drawing pins just to make sure that the lines are set straight as well. One of the things I've got here, I'm going about this, is using the track setter tool. So particularly here is the straight track setter, which makes sure that once I've finished all of these loops in the Fiddle Yard here, they will all look very nice and straight all the way down the layout. This is the current work site on the Fiddle Yard, along with putting in those 3 loops towards the very back. And the reason this is the current work site is because what I've done here is I've spaced from the front of the layout towards the back to understand how many Fiddle Yard lines I can get in on this side of the layout. And over in the top far right hand corner is my main constraint on this side here, which is a breeze block in the garage. So I've put some points in at the very back there, which then branches out into the 3 loops at the very back. So that is effectively a fixed point, and so is the front. So that is how many then Fiddle Yard loops I've got between the front and the back in this sort of middle section of the main Fiddle Yard. We're now going to get to work on getting to the middle of the main Fiddle Yard here. So hopefully in the next bit of the video you'll be able to see the outcome of that, and we'll take a little bit of a closer look towards the loops at the very back by the very back wall of the Fiddle Yard. In the last part of the video I talked you through how I'd completed the first section of the main Fiddle Yard at the garage door end, and now I have progressed all the way towards the middle, and I showed you about that area there then in the last part of the video. This whole section took quite a time to get straight, and then set out all the track across, and then for what you'll see at the very back is then the running line, just the concrete sleepers, and then the 3 loops at the very back. So that's the bit that I've got left to complete here, which we'll go and have a little look at right at the back wall now. This is the view from above. So what I've got at the very back, just before the breeze block in the garage, are then 3 loop sidings which come off the main running line at the very back there, and they branch round, follow the wall back down towards the garage door. In amongst all the framework here, and then also the framework for the inclines as well as the baseboard above, you'll notice that I've deliberately not permanently fixed the other baseboards to the framework as yet, because I knew that this section here at the back was going to be quite difficult to access. It's quite a stretch over, so I made sure that in between each of the frameworks, the different levels, I can still get in, and I've pinned down those 3 loops to start with. The next job there is to properly pin those down onto the actual baseboard below. Looking back down towards the garage door end of the layout, I've managed to fit in another siding at the very front, which is around about 120 centimetres in length, fit about 4-car train. There's also then a very shorter siding which I've made long enough for a flask train with 2 locos for that. And then from the running line at the very front, you've then got what is 9 sidings, which are the wooden sleepers before the running line, and then the 3 loop sidings at the very back of the layout at this end of the fiddle yard. The final stage of the main fiddle yard for the Trent Valley Railway was to complete past the breeze block in the middle of the garage and work my way towards the very back of the garage before it turns around the corner and onto the side of the garage. And I've now completed all the track work down to the far end there, completed all the points for each of the 9 loops, which are then between the concrete sleepers. So you've got the one running line at the front, and you can probably just about make out that there's another concrete sleeper line that would be at the far end there as it goes around the corner. In between that, as I say, there's 9 loops. These are mainly sort of in excess of sort of 300 centimetres long. That's sort of the nominal length of train that I'm looking for to run around the layout. And then in the very foreground here, I've also had room to fit in another siding. That's around about 120 to 140 centimetres in length, so that'll take a sort of 4 to 5 car train. At the very back, I've already put in the Arriva Trains Wales Mark III's DVT, and in the very dark corner of the far end is the 67 loco. At the very back there, there are 3 sidings there which come off the back concrete sleeper running line, just to the left there. So 3 sidings of around about 150 to 170 centimetres in length at the back there, which will be able to fit in around about a 5 to 6 car trains. The major task here has actually been pinning down the track in the right spacing and also in a straight line, so that smooth running between the one end and the other of the fiddle yard, but it also means that there is enough spacing between each of the lines for me to be able to get my hand between the coaches or whatever type of wagons or rolling stock will be in the fiddle yard, so that if I do get any derailments, which I hopefully I won't, then I can easily access that to set that right. You'll notice that there are all the way along the fiddle yard a few gaps where obviously the lengths of track have been joined together. In some areas I will probably fill these in with 1 or 2 sleepers, but I'm not too fussed about the look down here, because this is just a storage area for the trains, so that I don't have to get them in and out of the boxes. The sort of scenic areas of the layout will be on the other levels. With the track work now complete for the main fiddle yard, all of it is wired up. The wires are basically hanging underneath the baseboard here, underneath. You'll see a few of them are sort of hanging out over the edge on the left, down towards the floor. The next task is to wire all of this fiddle yard up, and also complete the very long task of wiring up all of the point motors and fitting the point motors for each of the points in this fiddle yard.